welcome everybody. Let's talk real estate. Your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current commercial real estate market here in Southern California. As we take a no BS look at both sides of the issues driving this market today to find the best solutions going forward. With our man right in the middle, Barry Saywitz. Hey, Barry.
Hey, good morning, Paul, and good morning to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. Welcome back. Happy New Year. I'm Barry Saywitz, president of the Saywitz Company and managing partner of Saywitz Properties. We have another year. We're going to do it again, wipe the slate clean, start all over. Welcome back, and we're going to talk some more real estate. So I'm excited about today's show because we're going to talk about one of my favorite and least favorite topics at the same time, property management. It's the good, it's the bad, it's the ugly. I want to welcome to the show Bridget, Simon, and Tahnee Merideth from Boutique Property Management, headquartered here in Huntington Beach in Orange County. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Yeah, so I appreciate you coming on the show. We have our own property management company. I joke when I say it's good and bad. Whether you like it or not, you got to do it. It is a fact of life. And there is a reason that people who own real estate have management companies. It's because they don't really like to interact with the folks, and they don't like to do the day-to-day stuff, and they like to get the benefits of the return on their investment, but leave it to professionals to deal with the day-to-day aspects of things. And that's why you folks have a job, and that's why we do what we do. So welcome. I'm happy to delve in and talk about it. I want to go back a little bit, though, because the two of you came together. You both have a little bit diverse background. Bridget, let's start with you. Your background is in banking and on the mortgage side of things. And so let's rewind a little bit and talk about what you did in your former career and how that translated into what you're doing today.
Thank you, Barry, for having me. I started as a loan processor account manager for retail and subprime loans. And so obviously there's a lot of compliance with that. And so I really enjoyed that and the deadline and the push. And so when I was introduced to property management in July 2010, I just knew this was going to be my niche. I had a great time. And the rules and regulations, the lease agreements, everything kind of just fell in line to how it was like as a account manager, loan processing for mortgages. So I just knew I was going to have fun.
And Tahnee, your background is, I don't want to call it the opposite end of the spectrum, but different aspect of the spectrum, right? On the
Correct.
Deal side of things, the transaction side of things. Talk about, your previous role and how it works today.
I started out as a real estate agent in 2002 and then moved into becoming a transaction coordinator. I owned a termite company with my ex-husband, so I learned the office aspect of stuff. When I moved to Orange County, I just kind of landed a job randomly at the same company that Bridget started at in 2010. And it was just a niche. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And I fit in because you have to be a multitasker. And I loved that my days were never the same. And I think even all these years later, I'm still learning stuff every single day.
Yeah. And so if we rewind to 2010, I mean, that is like smack dab in the middle of the recession, right? So mortgage business, not good. Real estate business, not good. Almost everything, not good. I remember it. I don't want to, but it was a bad period of time. What was the epiphany, if there was one, to come together and to go out on your own and do something at that point in time?
We did not. Bridget and I actually met working at Irvine Property Management, and it was a husband and wife that owned it. Bridget was actually their first hire. I was their second hire, and we grew within that company. Bridget left a little bit sooner than I did. I think I stayed about 5 years longer. It sold to a corporation. And so with that, I didn't like it. I didn't like how they did things, but I learned a lot. So I actually got my broker's license to do my own thing, and Bridget called me 2 years later, and we hooked back up.
Gotcha.
To start our own company.
And so and what time? So that's what?
2019.
So well past everything. Market's going good. Economy's good. Much better place.
To add to that, when you're in a big corporation like that, they just don't have the customer service. And that's what I think that she was saying, going on your own. Being able to have our own opportunity to provide our customer service, our way of communicating with people, examples of being able to provide extra help for those homeowners, not just saying, okay, well, this is the estimate, this is we're moving forward. They have a say. You get more than one estimate. And so I think that being able to take care of our homeowners and held their hand in those processes is really important. And being in a big company where we came from, they just didn't give the customer service that we truly believe in.
Yeah, and I mean, property management is you're dealing with the customer, whether it's the homeowner, the HOA owner, the resident, the tenant, whatever you want to call it. It's all the above. And then people that have problems and questions, they want answers, right?
Yes, sir.
And so part of it is getting them the answers quickly so you don't waste your whole day, and get them the information they need so they can move on, I think, right?
Correct.
So, all right, so you come together and you form Boutique Property Management, and the plan is what? It's we're going to go after the residential rental market, and that's really the core, and then it kind of builds from that, or how did it go?
We started out single family. When I was with the company, I did a lot of commercial, Airbnb, that type of stuff. But her and I started out single family, maybe a few apartment complexes. Randomly, we got a phone call from another property manager that I know in the industry. I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, and he had HOAs and he didn't want to do them anymore. And so he knew me and asked me to take them on. So we're like, okay, let's try it. So that's kind of how we started the HOA division. It was an accident, but it's been a blessing at the same time because it does help to pay for our monthly bills. As
Right.
you know, things are expensive, all the software and that type of thing, and it pays our employees.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenge taking it on, but we are not scared of challenges.
I mean, I sit on the boards of several HOAs because we own property in different places, and I find that some of the boards, it's smooth, it's seamless, and then others, everybody's arguing and drama, and you know, that's part of the issue. And then the meetings, it's funny because when no one shows up to the meeting, you know you're doing a good job because the only people who usually show up are the people that come to complain, right?
Yes, correct. There's
And
a lot
so-
of that.
And so, but it is cash flow, right? I mean, and when you talk about getting 3 bids, you almost have to with the HOAs. A lot of compliance with the HOAs in terms of elections and notices and those kinds of things.
Yes, sir.
We've tried to stay on top of all of that stuff by joining like NARPM. I don't know if you've heard of them, but the National Association of Property Managers. And then with the HOAs, CAI is huge. And Bridget and Jason just went to a big event in LA. So with those things, we try to stay on top of all of the new laws and regulations on top of the California Association of Realtors.
Which is a good segue because there are a ton of new laws and there's all kinds of regulations constantly. Some they throw at you and, hey, it's starting next month, you got to start doing this. And then others you knew they were coming and you have to plan for. And I think that applies not only to the HOAs, but it applies to just the individual, whether it's a home or a small apartment building. You've got to comply. And then as the property manager, it's your job to educate the owner on or the board on how that's going, and then you got to implement it.
Absolutely. When we went to the expo, we had some flyers out, and multiple people that have more of the further Los Angeles properties, when they saw the little marketing pieces that Mr. McQueen made, and they looked at the refrigerators. What's the refrigerator for? I go, well, starting January 1st, we have to implement this. And if you have a client that is an existing tenant and they do renew, that applies to them as well.
Right, which is interesting because we talked about that in our office, and and I've talked to other property management companies and owners. Some people, they were already providing the refrigerator anyway, so it's not a big impact. But in Orange County, historically for apartments, the owner has not provided the refrigerator. The tenant provides the refrigerator. And so for us on upstairs units, we'll provide the refrigerator because we don't want the tenant banging the refrigerator all the way up and down the stairs. And then you have risks if somebody brings their own refrigerator, if it has roaches or it's dirty or it leaks, then, now what? Whose fault is that and who pays? But going forward, you're absolutely right. So on a turn or on a new unit, you got to provide the fridge,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And then it's interesting that if the tenant has their own fridge, let's just say a tenant had a nice fridge, right? And they're like, hey, I want to bring my own fridge. Now you have more paperwork that you have to do to write an amendment to say that this guy agreed to waive the right to get the fridge and that he's going to take care of his own fridge.
And then if it breaks,
Yes, he could come to you. And we've
Exactly.
talked about this. Yeah, that's probably like a whole show in of itself. But I don't know like how the governor or whoever approved this law thought it through, other than to say, hey, we just want to put the onus on the property owner to basically buy the tenant a fridge, so it's less money for him to spend or her to get into the apartment, thinking that somebody just had no fridge, right? I mean, if you're moving from another place to a place, theoretically you would have a fridge.
especially single family.
Right. And so in the past, you have property owners that would rent the fridge and say, hey, we'll either hook you up with a rental company, you deal with them, they'll rent you the fridge if you don't want to buy it or you don't have the money, or we have fridges, we'll buy it, we'll rent it to you, and it's $50 a month or $35 a month, whatever it winds up being. And then everybody's happy. But now that's all out the window. And then what I find interesting, because this thing just took effect, is there, somebody said to me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm waiting for a phone call from the fridge police to tell me that they want to come out and then they want to check to see who owns the fridge. Like who checks that other than the tenant who gets some advice from an attorney or decides to be cute and says, hey, my lease is up. I want you to buy me a fridge. Right. And then people don't think it through, because if I had to buy you a fridge, theoretically, it would not be the same rent as if I did not have to buy you a fridge, right? And so maybe your rent was only going to go up $25, but it would go up $75 if I had to buy you an $800 or $1,000 refrigerator. And then the law only says that you have to buy them a fridge. It doesn't say what kind of fridge or what size of fridge or anything. I could say, hey, the fridge we offer is a tiny little fridge. And I mean, we would never do that, but I mean, these are stupid things, right?
The one that would belong in a very old school camper.
Right. Or in my kid's college dorm, right? I mean, and so, these are the kinds of things that as the property manager, you have to now deal with, and they add a whole nother layer of complication, conversation, paperwork on top of what was already a paperwork intensive kind of scenario.
Right.
I'm curious to see how it plays out, and then, the proof is in the pudding as to how that goes. But there's no question that dumps a whole different dynamic on things. I also find, and I'm curious your thoughts, is when you're renting places, whether it's a house or whether it's an apartment, you have to be very careful on who you rent to as a landlord or a property manager, because you're stuck dealing with them, right? And so there's no way to, I'll put it as politically correct as I can, there's no way to tell crazy on a piece of paper, and there's no way to really decipher if somebody really had bad credit other than the piece of paper, right? If they stiffed their last landlord and it actually showed up on the piece of paper, then you would know, right? And you'd be educated going in. But in many cases, if you stiffed your last landlord or if you stiffed them in COVID, then it's not on the credit, right? And then you have no way of knowing, right?
No way of knowing.
And that's another huge issue that we could talk about all day. We cannot discriminate. So if we put parameters up on the website and somebody applies, we have to take the first application that qualifies. So they could come back to us. Let's say there's 3 applications that come in and we give them to you and you choose the third one. We have to tell you, like, you're supposed to choose the first one. So they could come back and ask us to see who applied first on the website, and then the owner could get in trouble for that.
Right. And then there's also I have a service animal, right? So,
Oh, that's a whole other thing.
right. I mean, and there used to be I have a medical marijuana card, right? That for a period of time was, hey, it's okay for me to smoke weed at your apartment building, even though there's a baby that lives 5 feet away from me in the next yard over. I can puff it out all I want because I have the card. Right now, it's legal in California, so people say, hey, I can smoke, it's legal. And then we tell them, you can smoke, it is legal, just not at this property because it's a non-smoking property. So in the lease, it says I'm not supposed to smoke. And then what happens if they smoke? And then what happens if they smoke in the unit, right? What do you do? How do you get them out? And then if you do get them out, you have to ozone the apartment. You have to primer. You have 2 coats of paint. It smells like smoke. What if the next person complains? And so now, as the owner, you're stuck dealing with all of that stuff, right? You can go all day.
Correct. Yeah, all day.
Absolutely.
Is the service do you really have paperwork that says you have 2 large pit bulls and they're both service animals, and then that's your thing? I mean, I suppose it could be, but then I would just default back to, did you go online and print out a $10 certificate from some website? And then as the property manager, how do you know? And then you're stuck dealing with them, and you're stuck explaining to your property owner if something goes bad and that dog bites somebody, how that's supposed to go, right? I had a guy last week.
There's no breed restrictions.
No,
So that's the problem.
I mean,
But we do have a company that checks the certificates to make sure that they're valid.
or if you have a letter from the doctor, right? And then how do you even verify that?
General practitioner.
Right. And then do you call the office, and then they can't tell you anything because there's HIPAA rules, right? And so
You can still call and make sure it's their signature on the letter.
Yeah, I suppose, right? And then how deep do you want to dive, right? And then you're back to, it'd be nice to have 3 applications on every apartment, but sometimes you don't have that luxury. And sometimes this is the only person standing there. And then I got to make a gut call, right? What do I do?
You can't judge a book by its cover. You do your very best to dot your I's and cross your T's and ask all the questions you can on the references.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no question that with all of these regulations, it's very difficult and very tricky water. I mean, I guess the best advice I have to people out there is you got to try and make the best decision you can, and you do the best judge of character. And you can't judge a book by its cover or the color of somebody's skin, but it's also very difficult to judge it on a piece of paper these days.
It is.
Very.
So, all right. Well, that's all the drama stuff. But in terms of other regulations, the balconies, right? And so the no double security deposit.
The AB 1482.
Right. Well, the AB 1482 for sure.
That's
but
a fun one.
Right. Which is interesting because that comes back to when you buy a property. The pitch used to be, right? And so if you're on the sales side, or, the plan is, look, ladies, manage my property, help me get the rents up, help me fix the property up, and then I just want to sell it and buy something bigger or retire or whatever I'm going to do. I feel like those days are almost gone, because every property that I look at buying that people are pitching me these days, they say, hey, here's the rent. And then I go, well, you're stuck with that plus 5%. And they say, well, there's upside in the rent. You could just raise the rent. Those days are over as well, right?
I'm dealing with that right now. I inherited 6 properties that the father died, never increased the rents. They're paying $1,800 in single family properties in Irvine and Lake Forest.
And market's what? Ballpark.
Oh, $4,500.
Right.
So the dad never served him the AB 1482. I did. Now he wants all of them out so he can do substantial remodel, but we're having to get the attorney involved because obviously the tenants are kicking and screaming, and we're getting letters and certified letters. So the attorney is just going to get involved, and he can do the service. I literally just had a conversation with the owner yesterday about it. They're going to kick and scream. They're never going to find a place for $1,800. So let's have him serve them, him do it right. And then that way, but he is actually going to do the substantial remodel, and he's going to sell a couple. He just doesn't know which ones.
But then you need the permits ahead of time.
And show proof.
What they told us on the last deal we did is you have to attach the permits to the notice. So then there's no confusion that you weren't going to do the work or anything else. And then the issue is, if you're the tenant, I mean, I get it. Look, if my rent was $1,800, even if I knew the gig was up, right, and I knew I had a smoking deal, and I had an older gentleman or couple or lady that just didn't care, or they bought it for next to nothing, so they weren't trying to capitalize on the market rents, I would just delay, right? I would just delay as long as I could and just try and stay there as long as I could. And then if you go do that on an apartment building, you get people that we had it last month where we got a phone call from the city saying, hey, we got multiple calls from tenants. They said they want to file a class action lawsuit. And I said, for what? Right? I mean, we are remodeling the property. We did give them proper notice. We offered to transfer them. We offered for them to stay and remodel around them. We offered them to move, and we offered them everything by the book. And then, the city finally told them, hey, look, they're doing it by the book. And then they still went out and got a lawyer. And then we had to explain to the lawyer, hey, we're doing it by the book, right? I mean, I don't know what you want to do, right? And then it's, oh, we're going to threaten to sue you. Can you give them more money? And the answer is no. It's not how it goes. As opposed to the old days where you just give somebody 30 days notice and you tell them, hey, your lease is up. It is my property. Should be a free country that you get to do what you want to do with your own property, right?
That's
it's nothing personal.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the form before.
Yeah.
This new word, they were there so long. The last month's rent was free,
Right.
and then boom, you're done. Now it's
And then
a
also,
whole
what
nother
about
animal.
and what kind of security deposit does somebody who's paying $1,800 have? And when they have to
Maybe
go rent
$1,000.
right, and sometimes they got a $500 deposit from 20 years ago, right? So then that's not enough to go rent another place,
No, sir.
and so now that's why I need money, right? And so that again, involves that whole thing. And then look, you're going to go fix it up, and then you got to bring stuff up to code, and everything costs more, and so you just start adding it on. So when somebody looks at buying it, right, forget about fixing up your own property. People say, oh, you can raise the rents, you can get a better return. And then I say, well, what about the cost to fix it up? And what about the downtime to get there? How about you throw that in the model?
Yeah.
And then how about you add another 25% just because, and then run those numbers and tell me what the property is worth. And then it's difficult.
Very.
It's a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Do you find that the customers that you have are with interest rates where they have been, where they ran up, that they're just holding the properties, waiting for another day to see if rates come down, or just hold the property and raise their rents a little bit and try and fix it up? Or is there a strategy for some of these folks to try and get out at the end of the day?
I feel like a lot of our owners have sold this last year. We've lost a lot of properties to owners selling, probably just cashing out, going somewhere else. A lot of our owners in our portfolio are also older, so they purchased here.
Right.
And they're retired and they're living elsewhere. We have a lot of out-of-country owners that don't even live in the country. So I'm not sure, but we have lost a lot of properties this last, I'd say 12, 14 months. People
Selling. And then also to piggyback to that, when we were at the expo, a lot of people were saying Nashville, Tennessee,
Right.
Arizona, and Texas. And so one of my owners sold 3 and straight to Nashville.
Yeah. I talked to a buddy last week, and he said, I got sued for no reason in LA. I'm selling the property because they're dropping my insurance, and I'm buying something in Nashville. And so you're not going to see a property in Nashville appreciate as much as you will in Southern California, but you also don't have the regulations, and you can get a better return. And so if you're interested in cash flow,
Oh, yes.
there's better places. There's no question.
One single family residence in Lake Forest bought her 2 townhomes in Nashville.
Yeah. No, I mean, the values are night and day for sure. So, and then from a business owner standpoint, I mean, you have bills to pay, you have mouths to feed. You got to constantly be hustling, I suppose, for new business to be able to
Absolutely.
build that portfolio or replace the one that you might have lost. So where is the market, and how are you guys going about growing the business in terms of attracting new customers?
We pay for leads, and the leads go to like 5 different people at the same time. So you have to be on top of it and call right away. You tell every single person that you meet what you do. Example, I was talking to my neighbor doing yard work the other day, and I had no idea. She owns a 31 unit, and she has a CPA that's taking care of it. So I let her know what I do. She told me about the insurance thing. He didn't help her do the insurance, and last year that was a huge thing. So I said, oh no, we do all that for you. So I kind of, my little niche of getting it in, this is what I do, and I'll manage your property for you, but I don't want to pester her. She's my neighbor.
Yeah.
But you just tell every single person what you do. My car, I have a sticker on my car.
We wear our shirts everywhere.
Yeah, going to real estate meetings is a really good place because a lot of realtors don't want to deal with rentals. So we'll give the client back to them. If they don't want to deal with the rental, then we will take the rental, and then when they're ready to sell, we just give it back.
Yeah, I would think that a big business would be from the residential agents, because not only they may have a client that would buy an investment home to rent out, or a townhome or something like that, but then also if you have somebody that buys for investment, then they have other investment properties. And the residential agent, nothing against them, that's really not their thing. They don't know what to do with it, and so they pass it along.
And they appreciate that camaraderie because we put their information in the property management agreement. The homeowner has a sales agent, and you put their DRE number, and they appreciate that commitment, and they know that, that we have their back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's some education with regards to some of these owners that are less sophisticated, or just maybe not knowledgeable about certainly the regulations, because it's hard to keep up, period, but then also things like insurance? Like, I mean, if you have old power panels, if you have an old roof,
Yes.
if your property needs a coat of paint on the outside, it's very difficult, I find, to explain to somebody who's cheap or old school or older or any of the above, to say, hey, if you just planted some flowers and you just put a coat of paint even just on the front of the property, you'd get more rent, and the place would look nicer, and your insurance company might not drop you, right? And then people don't get it.
No, and plus we just
No.
had we had like 4 or 5 insurance policy renewals where we had a hustle for the electrical panel, and then the other part was the open flame barbecues.
Yes.
Not allowed.
Yeah, well, we got a memo goes out, right? We have an amendment to our lease now, not within 10 feet of the building,
And then
right?
the rules and regulations for that association had to change just to get the insurance renewal.
Yeah.
So that was another project I had to work on this year.
We had somebody go around and take pictures of everybody's barbecues, and then we had to move them. And so we told the tenants, listen, they can't be within 10 feet, and I need a picture, or you're not in compliance. So everybody took the picture. I don't know where they moved it to, right? And I don't know what happened, but then the insurance companies, no dummies, they went back out like 2 weeks later, and then some of the people had put their barbecue back, and then they're like, we're dropping you. I'm
Yeah.
like, no. They were cleaning up, right? I mean, but these are the stupid kinds of things that I get it, but people are paranoid because you have fires or something burnt down, right? What about fire extinguishers, right? People go around and the inspector says, your fire extinguisher expires next month. I go, well, it's current now, isn't it? And they go, well, we want it renewed now, right? Really?
We do all of that for the owners. They're all on a schedule.
Yeah. Yep.
So anything multi-building or the HOAs or a commercial building, we take care of all of that.
Or here's a good one, sticky tape for stairs. I am a big purchaser of the tape that goes on the stairs so you don't slip, right? We just bought 25 rolls of tape, and we're sending guys around every place that has tapes. Tenant says, hey, this is ugly tape, right? Why is it? I go, hey, it's not me, man. I don't want you to fall.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good idea.
I mean, it's crazy stuff. Or we've added extra lights on the property because you don't want somebody to say, hey, it's dark and I slipped, right? These are all like crazy what if things that unfortunately cost the owner money, and then for the property manager, just another thing for you to have to go deal with every day.
I like the part where you just added about the lights for the exterior. We just changed one for one of our small association, and we put LED ones.
Yes, we do triple floods, and then people go, "It's too bright. It's shining in my eye." Hey, pick your poison.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So we just redid them with one of our electricians, and one of the neighbors took out one of the bulbs that was by the driver area. And I talked to the association president. She goes, absolutely not. Go and replace it with LED and put it up higher. So I called my vendor. Can you help me? Yep. Okay. Got it handled last week. And so it's nice that they have the ones, because you can't take the bulb out of the LED.
Right.
It's a whole fixture. So
Right.
it's nice to have this.
Also saves you money on your bill at the end of the day. But all things that you never had to think about before, right? And so in terms of expansion for you geographically, you'll do parts of LA, certainly Orange County, Riverside County.
Yep.
Yes. Bridget's from Riverside County, so she's very familiar with that area. I think she'd like to live a little bit closer and kind of expand out in that area because it's cheaper to buy a house. And I'll go out to LA County.
And I'm going to ask the question, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, in terms of clients and customers. Mom and pop folks, individual owners, obviously foreign owners, and investment partners. You'll do it all, right? If it's
Absolutely.
We'll do it all. We are trying to wean out the people like what you're talking about that don't want to do the work, because you could lead a horse to water, and if they won't drink it, then there's nothing you can do. And when you're hungry, and in the beginning when you're starting, you'll take anything. And we just had to get rid of 2 4 units because the city was constantly on the owner because they wouldn't do work cheap, and it was consuming our assistants' time. I'd say 3 days a week to go over there and deal with vendors and this and this. She didn't want to spend the money, and then we kept getting fines, and you're having to deal with the city. So for the $700 a month, it wasn't worth it.
Right.
So we're trying to kind of wean out those people that don't want to do repairs because they're a liability for us. If they don't want to listen, then we're going to get in trouble with you because they don't want to listen. They're going to name us on the suit. So now that we've grown a little bit bigger, we're weaning out and trying to grow and get people who are willing to comply and do compliance and listen and do the work on their properties, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think
quality is better than quantity.
Oh yeah, there's no question. You have to be able to say no, and it's a tough thing to say, but I tell the folks in our office, like, there's some deals, when it's a square peg in a round hole, there's a reason, right? And it's just not worth it at the end of the day. But also you want your customer to appreciate the fact that you are trying to help them, right? And that you're knowledgeable and that you're willing to run with the ball and get it done, as opposed to fighting you all the way along.
Yes, sir.
So, and in terms of the, I guess the downside of the rentals, what happens when people don't pay? I mean, you're dealing with the 3 days and the eviction if it needs to get there, or the workout, which is, hey, how about I don't, evict you and sue you, and maybe you just want to move out and go try and
We
save
definitely
yourself.
tried the compromise part, but we like Steve Silverstein, so we'll hand it over to him, and he'll take care of it, and he'll run with it and help us. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's definitely a bulldog.
I am a big, let's negotiate, get the keys back, because it could take 30 to 90 days to get your house back. I've gone longer, back in 2005 when things were really bad. So I would rather negotiate and tell them, if you have an eviction nowadays, it's going to show. Maybe not today, but it will show the next time you go to look for something. And just give us the keys back. Can you give them back in 2 weeks?
Right.
But yes, we turn it over to Steve Silverstein, and once it's turned over to him, and he takes over from that point.
Then it's too late. I mean, look, if you didn't have the rent, you're definitely not going to have the legal fees on top of the rent. And then if you didn't take the deal, and you aren't, like, some people are like, I'm sorry, I feel bad, and then they move on. And other people are like, I'm just going to
They'll
stay here
fight
and
you
milk
to the
it
end.
as long as I can, right?
But I've also done where tenants they're good tenants, and you know that. I mean, you own properties. And if they get behind a month and they're like, we're going to pay in 2 weeks. Well, how about this? Can I approach the owner and can you pay $250 more a month, and we'll do a contract and you make up that month over the next 12 months. So I've done that too. And tenants have been very appreciative, and they will pay that extra $250 or whatever it is over that 12-month time to make up that 1 month's rent. Because, once you get 2-3 weeks behind, they pay the rent. They're not going to be able to pay again in a week.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you get around the holidays, and then it's hard. The other thing is, you get the people with pay weekly or the 2-pay, right? The person whose rent's due on the 1st, and then it's the 5th, and then it's the 10th, and then it's, I get paid on the 15th, and they get further and further behind, and you see where it's going. At the same time, you don't want to kick them out if they get current by the end of the month. The problem is, you're biting your nails at the end of the month going, are they going to pay?
2 more weeks.
Right. And then what, now all of a sudden if you don't pay and you fall over, now you're 2 months behind. And then there's, now it's a real thing. And then now you've already wasted 2 months, and now it's 3 months for the eviction, and now they owe you 5 months plus the legal fees. And, now they're deep in the hole.
Yeah. That's why the payment plan for me has worked in the past. I actually have a couple right now that are doing it. And typically, if something like that happens, like I said, and they're living paycheck to paycheck, they are appreciative that you're willing to work with them. And I'm talking good tenants, though. They've been good tenants, so you want to keep them and work with them, and then the owner usually understands. But if they break the payment plan, then we're done.
Right, because, look, you had an agreement to pay the rent on the 1st. That was your first deal you broke. Then I made a payment plan with you, whatever it is, and you welched on the payment plan. It's 2 strikes, and you're done. Like, how can I work with you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we live that stuff every day. Try and keep that spreadsheet as short as possible for many reasons. So, we could do this stuff all day. I mean, I do it all day, every day. I just do it with different people.
We do.
But in terms of the business model, I guess we'll kind of close or wrap up with that. You will, while there are different pieces, I think, the association versus the single family versus the multifamily, the concept's the same, right? I mean,
Yes,
you're
sir.
providing service, you're protecting the owner, you're following the process of whatever paperwork and documentation, and then hopefully you're servicing the tenant when they have a question or an issue or a maintenance thing that comes up. I mean, it really is multiple aspects of customer service at the end of the day, right?
I agree.
And the tenant is the owner's customer. So I
Yeah.
always try to tell the owners that this is your customer. If they're good, you want to be nice to them. You want them to stay.
It doesn't mean every customer is a good customer,
No.
but they are the customer,
They are the
and,
customer.
and you want to try and take care of them as best you can.
Yes.
So if people want to find out more information about your company, what's the website that they can go to?
boutiquepropertymanagement.net.
Got it. So if you own property and you don't like dealing with the minutia that goes along with owning the property, these are the ladies to contact. LA, Orange County, Riverside County, maybe Nashville someday, who knows?
Ooh, I love that idea.
But I appreciate you guys coming on the show, and I
Thank you.
wish you much continued success for you and your families and your business. And
Thank you for having us.
appreciate learning more about the company. Boutique Management, Bridget, Tahnee, I'm Barry Saywitz. I appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you back here next week on Let's Talk Real Estate.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. You've been listening to Let's Talk Real Estate, your weekly BS with Barry Saywitz about the current state of the real commercial real estate market right here in Southern California. On Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studio here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.